If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. How many times did you hear that growing up? Sounds harmless, right? Maybe even wise. But here's what that sentence actually taught you and me. It taught us that our thoughts don't matter if they're uncomfortable. Our opinions aren't worth sharing if they might upset someone. So stay quiet, stay small, and stay nice. I spent years apologizing for things I didn't do, agreeing with people I completely disagreed with, and working overtime just to get a nod of approval from my boss. I thought this was just who I was, someone who valued harmony. Turns out, it wasn't my personality at all. It was my programming, installed in childhood, still running my adult life. Today, I'm going to show you how parents accidentally create people pleasers, the exact training methods they use without realizing it, and the one exercise that helped me see exactly when and how I was programmed to be nice instead of real. Here's the shortcut. Most parents don't sit down and deeply reflect on what would actually help their children succeed in life. They do the best they can with what they have. And one of the easiest shortcuts they have is training their children to be nice. Think about it from a parent's perspective. They want the easy child, the one who listens, obeys, doesn't ask too many questions, doesn't make parenting harder than it already is. On the surface, this works for everyone. Parents manage their household more smoothly. Kids fit into society without being labeled the weird kid who's always shouting or disagreeing. But here's what actually happens. Instead of raising confident, authentic individuals, parents just mass produce people pleasers. This is the fear-based training. The program usually sounds like this: shut up or else. Stop doing this or I'll give you something to cry about. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Don't talk back to me. Instead of taking the time to understand why a child is acting out, or even giving a simple explanation like we don't do this because X would happen, many parents default to authority and intimidation. When parents operate from fear and anger, children learn two devastating lessons. Lesson number one: approval can disappear when you're not nice. And second, other people's emotions are your responsibility. Therefore, the child learns to follow rules, but from a place of fear, not understanding. They don't obey because the rules make sense to them. They obey because they're terrified of that withdrawal of love happening again. Here's the long-term damage. This creates adults who live under contradictory expectations. The same parents who taught you, don't defy me because I'm the boss, later expect you to take initiative, take bold risks, assert yourself in the world. But how can you do that when you've been trained to seek permission for everything? The results? Chronic apologizers who say sorry for things they didn't cause. People who can't advocate for themselves because they learned that challenging authority means withdrawn love. Here's my realization. When I started learning about people pleasing, I immediately recognized the patterns in myself. But I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment when this programming was installed in me. I had a vague sense it connected to my childhood, but the specific incidents remained fuzzy. That all changed when I encountered one exercise in Dr. Aziz's book titled Not Nice. Suddenly, I could see crystal clearly how those early dynamics had shaped everything that followed. Here's the exercise that helped me the most. Hopefully, it will help you too. Pick one parent, the one whose love you craved most, the one whose love was hardest to get. Then ask yourself, how did you need to be for them to show love? And most importantly, how could you never be around them? What was it that always brought their disapproval? Here's my discoveries. For my dad, I needed to be silent and agreeable, just there, not causing him any anger or frustration. I needed to always be on his side because he had narcissistic tendencies and wanted constant validation. For my mom, I needed to excel at school, get good grades, good behavior, because she was a teacher and saw my performance as a direct reflection of her work. My hobbies and my genuine interests didn't matter. So I stopped mentioning them because I was scared of her reaction. She'd say there was no time for activities and hobbies. We had to focus on school. Now, what brought disapproval? For my dad, disrupting the peace or starting conflict with my brother, for example. Instead of understanding what was happening, he'd immediately become angry, shouting to enforce dominance. Whereas for my mom, bad reviews from school or being caught not studying, what I did in my alone time did not concern her, only my academic performance mattered. And so I learned to gain love using those tricks. Here's how I broke free. This isn't about blaming your parents. This is about you breaking free from programming designed to create a nice and obedient child. Programming that no longer serves you or me as an adult. When we identify the specific conditions under which love was given or withdrawn in our childhood, we start seeing the invisible rules we're still trying to follow. We begin to understand why we automatically seek approval, why we struggle to assert ourselves, why we apologize for existing all the time. The good news, once you see the programming, you can rewrite it. Your worth isn't contingent on being the easy person in every room. Your value doesn't depend on never causing discomfort. The conditional love from childhood doesn't have to define how you show up as an adult. You were trained to be nice, but you can choose to be real instead. So, take some time with this exercise. Pick your parent. Write honestly about how you needed to be for them and what brought their disapproval. Notice what patterns emerge. Pay attention to how these childhood dynamics might still be playing out in your adult relationships. The path to authentic living begins with understanding how you learn to hide. Once you know where the programming came from, you can finally question whether it still serves you or whether it's time to write new rules for ourselves. I'm making a whole series about people pleasing and nice people, where it comes from and how to break free from it all. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.